And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
Well, hello everybody. How's everyone doing? Everyone doing good? Ready to learn about watersheds and progress and challenges towards healthy ones? Yeah? Well, I'm not gonna lie, when the 12 people came in about 15 minutes ago, I was like, well, this is a success. And now I'm really feeling confident. I'm gonna run you guys through kind of our agenda really quick and introduce some of our speakers who will then tell you a little bit more about what they do. But to start out, welcome to Challenges and Progress Towards Healthy Watersheds. We are gonna be taking a holistic view at challenges and progress towards watersheds in the Pacific Northwest and in Southwest Alaska specifically. We have some very interesting different facets to talk about: the commercial fishing industry, the sports fishing industry, indigenous sovereignty, and yeah, we're very excited to have you here today. So our agenda today is we'll start out with the trailer premiere of The Turn and words from Mark Titus. Next, we'll have Miles Johnson with the Columbia Riverkeeper talking about the Snake River Dam removal update. And then Erica and I here with Commercial Fishermen for Bristol Bay will be giving you a little Bristol Bay update, and yes, talking about Pebble Mine because that is one of our most pressing issues. Following up with that, we will have Melanie Brown with Salmon State, who will be talking about some of the work that they're doing on other salmon issues in Alaska. And we'll finish up with a wonderful film that was produced by Trout Unlimited. It's called School of Fish, and it really talks about, in Bristol Bay, how tribal, sports fishing, and commercial fisheries are all interrelated, and the importance of protecting the habitat. And then, if you guys haven't had enough, or you have more questions, we'll have about 5 or 10 minutes at the end where you guys feel free to ask any questions you may have about healthy watersheds. The last thing I will plug before I hand the mic over to Mark is that we have sign-on sheets to permanently protect Bristol Bay over in at the table that you walked in at. If you signed one and put it in the box, great. If you didn't, at the end, we'll hand out some forms to you guys. And this huge table of swag that we have back here, we'll be drawing some names out of that box just for these giveaway items up here. So with that, thank you so much for being here, and Mark, please take it away.
Well, we're going to go. Thank you, Nels. Thank you all for coming. God, what a great turnout. What a love in the room for wild salmon. My name is Mark Titus. I'm a filmmaker based in Seattle, as Melanie said yesterday, which I love, and am adopting. I winter in Seattle. I love to spend most of my time in Alaska in the summer times, if at all possible, and I've been doing that for the last 14 years, making a trilogy of wild salmon stories based on a love story, essentially, my love for wild salmon that I know everybody in this room shares. The Turn is the third in this series. The first two films were called The Breach and The Wild. And I'll just direct your attention for a second to that QR code on the screen there. If you're interested, you can pull out your phones. You can use your camera to get into that QR code right there, and they'll take you to a little link tree, which will give you access to watch the first two films for free vis-a-vis YouTube. So at any point you can do that, and I have it on me too, so just come find me if you want to come watch the films later on in their entirety. Just a quick note on The Turn. It really just became apparent to me after The Wild, and when you watch these films you'll see why. This is an ongoing story about Bristol Bay. It's an ongoing story about protection for these wild salmon we love throughout salmon country, up and down the coast, from California clear up to the top of Alaska. But because of some personal resonance, I've focused my efforts on a couple things. One, Bristol Bay. Bristol Bay is the last fully intact wild salmon system on the planet. That means there's no hatcheries, there's no fish farms, there's no real human interference with the fish as they come up and spawn, as they have been doing for millennia. In 2022, we saw 80 million fish return to the system. In 2023, it was around 60 million. those are records. This is an incredible system that's still thriving. And if you don't know, the brief history is that there's been a proposed giant open pit copper mine in its headwaters for the last 30 years, and the indigenous folks in that region have been pushing, tirelessly getting up every single day fighting this thing in their natal headwaters of their salmon country. So the turn itself, as a title, refers to that moment in time when wild salmon somehow kind of magically know it's time to turn from the gyre out in the Pacific and come home. It also refers to us as a species. Are we going to make that turn? Are we going to turn like a murmuration of birds, like a school of salmon, and follow our truest instinct and hear our truest call to our mother, our home, this planet that actually sustains us, that we get to borrow these bodies from a little while, and live in harmony with that a system that's been around for so long? Or are we going to just kind of fall back into the way things have been the last 200 years and dilapidate into a system of just taking what we want and leaving the rest for dead? And frankly, that's going to be us if we don't hear this calling. So with that, I'm going to swap these computers out really quickly, and this, I promise this is going to go super smooth, right? And by the way, this is quite literally the very first screening of this trailer. I have not watched this in its entirety to this point with the color correction that just came in 5 minutes before we got here. So you guys are the very first, and I hope you enjoy it, and we will certainly be around for questions after the full program here.
And if you can't see the screen right now, feel free to just move about and find a spot where you can see it.
Okay, and with that, I give you the turn.
Can you get the lights?
Oh yeah.
The life that we are advocated for is not only the life of a species of fish, it's our life. And when I mean our life, I mean all of our life, not just Nez Perce people.
When we told Pebble Limited Partnership, our people were not willing to sell right away. They just thought we were aliens. What we have here is something that you cannot buy. I can't imagine a world without salmon. Food brings people together, especially when it comes to harvesting wild foods, because it involves actually getting out and finding the food. I'm just so thankful for my great-grandparents who had to endure so much. And they made it through. And they laid the groundwork for us to live such rich lives.
I think everybody can relate to that idea of having something in your backyard that you don't have a say in. And the fear that a place that you love, the place where you live, is suddenly not safe anymore. What has happened in these watersheds, there's a massive modern gold mining boom underway.
Aren't we smart enough to protect these last places? And as long as there's gold in the goddamn ground, people are gonna want it. I understand that, but you know, there's value in certain things. And the value of gold is temporary, oh so temporary. The value of an eternal food source in a wild world is worth more than any gold.
There were times in our history when people wanted us gone from the landscape. We've been here for 10,000 plus years, and we're going to hopefully be here for another 10,000, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure that the salmon survive along with us. The river's named after our people, and you know, I'd heard once the city called the river their battery, and you know, it's not the battery for the city. It's our sacred river, it's our namesake, and it's not too late to fix things.
How can we all survive without compromising those things that make our homes the places we want to live? The fish are going away, and they're going away for a whole host of reasons. There is primarily one, and it's human beings. So how do I show the human beings through art something that will wake them up?
I think we can do big things like this. We are a nation that can do big things because we did big things. And this river restoration will be the largest river restoration in history. And we can do this. This is something that, as Americans, we can do this. We can bring salmon back to the Snake River.
And the more we keep working and the more we keep growing our army, and it's an intellectual army, it's a spiritual army, and it doesn't matter the amount of time, and it doesn't matter the amount of money. It's our inherent responsibility. It runs in our genes to protect this homeland, and it's really who we are.
You see the discontent and the fighting, the lack of being connected to one another, causing people to be separated. It's because people have become so separated from the land and understand that first law of what takes care of all of us, what unites us. What unites us is the elements that creates all of life.
That's the title of the film. The turn, as mentioned before, it really kind of physically means the turning of the salmon back home when they make the turn out from the ocean, but also an emotional and a spiritual turn for ourselves and our own hearts. Last quick thing, and then I'm going to vamoose, is there are 1,000 cuts to wild salmon. We know this. Every one of them are important. Every one of them must be addressed and are being addressed by incredible people. You're going to meet some here in a minute. The focus in this film, when people walk away and we take it out to as many people as we can across the United States in the next year, is that if we only could do two things, if we only could do two things in this generation, this epoch for salmon, and it boiled down to those two things: protect Bristol Bay at all costs, and return the Snake River to a free-flowing state.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, and yeah, let me just reiterate that you guys just got like the first premiere trailer of the turn. Like this was a private showing, so you guys, thank you for being here for that. Next, speaking of the Snake River Dam, we have Miles Johnson with Columbia Riverkeeper, who's going to be giving an update here. So Miles, please take it away.
Wow, thank you so much all for being here. Yeah, my name is Miles Johnson. I'm the legal director for Columbia Riverkeeper. We're a nonprofit organization that works to protect clean water and salmon habitat so that everyone in the basin can enjoy the benefits of a beautiful, healthy river and can eat locally caught fish without worrying about toxic pollution. I know there's a lot of Riverkeeper members in the audience right now. Thank you for supporting our work over the years. Thank you for being here today. If you're not a Riverkeeper member, you can sign up over on that table. We can keep you up to date on what's going on and how to help protect the river. I'm going to begin by acknowledging that we are standing on the traditional land of the Chinook people. The Chinook Nation is...
That's a look. That's a people also.
And lots of people, yes. The Chinook Nation is fighting for federal recognition right now. If you have a moment today or in the next week, I'd recommend you visit chinookjustice.org. You can take action and support their bid for full federal recognition, which they deserve because they are inherently a sovereign nation and because they bargained for it in a treaty with the federal government. So, Snake River Dam removal. Couldn't have asked for a better introduction than that. Just a beautiful film, and I really look forward to seeing it in its entirety. Why do we care about 4 dams on the Snake River in eastern Washington? First of all, immediately, those 4 dams are pushing several stocks of salmon and steelhead to extinction. Snake River Sockeye, Snake River Spring Chinook, Snake River Steelhead are in full-on collapse. It's not hyperbole to say that, you know, in the next decade or two, especially with the increased impacts of climate change, we risk having those fish blink out of existence. Fish that have sustained, you know, cultures on this continent for 15,000 years or more. We could lose them in the next 10 or 20 years. The flip side of that for Snake River dam removal is that opening up access to the Snake River Basin, you know, it can do more than keep these fish on life support. It's one of the best opportunities that we have to restore abundant, healthy wild salmon in the lower 48. The upper Snake River Basin, especially the Clearwater and the salmon subbasins, this is the biggest, best stretch of intact salmon habitat in the lower 48. It's at high elevation, so it's a little bit buffered from the worst effects of climate change. It's relatively undeveloped. The Snake River Basin used to be one of the primary contributors of salmon in the Columbia. It can be again because that habitat remains, but right now there are 8 dams, 4 on the lower Snake and 4 on the lower Columbia, between the ocean and that good habitat. And what we've learned over the last 30 years is that's about 4 dams too many. So that's what we're talking about. That's why people are pushing, have been pushing for lower Snake River dam removal. And you know, I want to acknowledge that there are people in this room, I'm sure, who have been hearing about Snake River dam removal, fighting for lower Snake River dam removal since before I was born. And you know, first of all, thank you. Second of all, maybe there's a little issue fatigue going on here. Why should we care about that right now? I think that today, as we stand here, there's more momentum for Snake River dam removal than there has been at any point since those dams were built. Why is that? People have been fighting about this forever. This year, the states of Oregon and Washington, Nez Perce, Umatilla, Yakima, Warm Springs Tribe, over the past year they came together with a shared vision of the future for salmon in the Columbia Basin, a future that does not include Snake River dam. They went to the Biden administration and said, this is our future, you know, this is what we want to happen. Can you partner with us? And out of that came an agreement between the states, those 4 tribes, the Biden administration, fishing and conservation organizations like Columbia Riverkeeper, to kind of stop the cycle of litigation that has been going on for 20 years and has not solved the problem. And instead to work together over the next, you know, 2 to 3 to 5 years to try to find real solutions that will, you know, fill the services that those dams currently provide and allow us to get to Snake River dam. That agreement was signed in December. It was approved by a federal judge in, I think, January of this year. And yesterday at the White House, there was a big ceremony with our state governor, Washington governor, the heads of the treaty tribes, lots of the heads of federal agencies to, you know, kind of formally acknowledge the existence of this new agreement. Yeah, it's great. We can all, you know, have a nice photo op and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Like, what does this actually mean for fish and the future of the Snake River dam removal move? You know, why am I excited about this agreement? I'm excited, first of all, because of how it came together. Although, you know, most people in the Pacific Northwest, and certainly the tribes in the states, you know, they all want salmon. They understand the importance. Getting them all together and saying the same thing about what we need for salmon and Snake River dam removal, that has been a real tough hill to climb for the last 20 years. Having them all together saying the same thing creates a hugely powerful political force in the Pacific Northwest that I think is going to help us, move this issue down the road. So that, that's one thing. Another thing is this agreement contains an express admission in writing from the federal government saying our goal is abundant wild fish in the Columbia Basin, and the way to get there involves Snake River Dam. So it's words on the page. It's not going to change anything, but I want to stress that for the last 20 years, the federal government's position has been, we don't have a problem. We're going to defend this in court. We're going to mitigate this, the lack of fish in other ways. And, we're not talking about Snake River Dam. This is a huge tonal shift for the executive branch of the federal government to say, yeah, we have a problem. We know what we need to do to solve it. There's some other things that we think need to happen first, but still, this is where we go. So what exactly does this agreement do? It plans for what comes after the Snake River dams. So in this agreement, the federal government has committed money, it has obligated itself in cooperation with the states and tribes and stakeholders to come up with plans for how are we going to replace the energy that these dams create? How are we going to get our agricultural products from Idaho and Eastern Washington to market, to ports like Longview? How are we going to make sure that farmers in Eastern Washington who draw water from the lower Snake River, how are we going to help them continue to farm when we change where the river flows? How are we going to address recreational impacts? The agreement also commits the federal government to work and invest in actually building clean energy projects that would be owned and controlled by the tribes in order to begin replacing the power that these dams create. And the last thing that this agreement requires is that in the spring of 2026, federal agencies will come forward with a new recommendation about the future of the lower Snake River dams. So that's the good. Here's the not so good. This agreement does not guarantee Snake River dam. I think, when we started negotiating this, I and a lot of other people were hopeful that we would get more of a solid guarantee, but we don't have that. What that means is that we're going to have to work very hard over the next 2 to 3 years, both to implement this agreement and also to bring our federal congressional delegation around to the idea that this is a good idea. The theory behind this agreement is the tribes and the states and the Northwest as a region will get together and plan for Snake River dam removal. But after that planning is done, we'll go to Congress and say, now you need to bless this. You need to approve Snake River dam removal. You need to probably appropriate additional money for some of the things that we'll need. And given that that's like 2 or 3 election cycles away, and how wonderfully functional our Congress is, it leaves a lot of uncertainty on the table. And the interests that have traditionally opposed Snake River dam removal, the Public Power Lobby, the Bonneville Power Administration, some agricultural interests, those folks have not gone away. And really, they're no more interested in Snake River dam removal than they've ever been. So, as much as I would like to say, we're on the path, we're going to get there, we are on the path. We're in a great place. We have more momentum now than we ever have. Also, we really have our work cut out for us over the next, 2 or 3 years. So if you've been, I know you all care about salmon, but if you are interested in Lower Snake River dam removal, and you're tired of hearing about it, I want to say, right now, the next 2 or 3 years, now's the time to get involved. Call your senators, call your federal congressperson, and say, this matters to the Pacific Northwest. I expect you to help see it done. Phone calls are great. If you hit up that QR code there or on the table, that'll also take you to a letter page on Columbia Riverkeeper's website where you can send in a letter. So yeah, thank you. Look forward to any questions afterwards. And yeah, just great to be here in Astoria.
Thank you so much, Miles. That was amazing. Now that you've gotten kind of some of the local flavor of issues that are going on here in these neck of the woods, we're going to travel all the way to Bristol Bay, Alaska, to talk about some of the issues that we're facing up there. My name is Nels and my coworker here, Erica De La Rosa, who has put together these beautiful slides and presentation, which I have to plug there really quick. We work for an organization called Commercial Fishermen for Bristol Bay. Now, what makes our organization different? What I love most about it is that we are an in-region organization based out of Dillingham, Alaska in the Bristol Bay region, and we work directly under the United Tribes of Bristol Bay, which is a tribally chartered government consortium that works on salmon habitat conservation for their way of life. Now, as a project of United Tribes of Bristol Bay, that means any work that we do directly falls in line with the tribal values of that region. And that is something that we just really pride ourselves on, that collaboration and the holistic nature of how we take issues on in Bristol Bay as this representation of the fishing industry. So, I bet you're wondering what's going on in Bristol Bay these days. Let's not talk about the price that happened last year, because that was a little bit of a doozy. But in terms of salmon habitat conservation, I think we're on a good path right now, kind of like what Miles said. We're on a good path right now, but we still have issues ahead. Last year, January 30th, 2023, the EPA issued 404C Clean Water Act protections in Bristol Bay. Come on, guys. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. That effectively stopped Pebble Mine in its tracks. Yes, that's another one. Now, what's been so amazing about Bristol Bay and the work that's being done up there to protect salmon habitat is that it's not just one thing that we're trying to do to stop Pebble Mine. It's multiple little hurdles. It's the Pedro Bay land easement conservation on the, I believe, northeast corner of Lake Iliamna that prevents Pebble Mine from traveling through there. It's the united work between the tribes and the fishermen, and it is this 404C Clean Water Act. Now, where things got a little bit dicey last year, or in the following months from the 404C, Governor Mike Dunleavy decided that he was going to challenge the EPA's ruling, and he brought it to the Supreme Court. He wanted the Supreme Court to take up that what the EPA did in Bristol Bay was unconstitutional. Now, the Supreme Court currently has some bigger fish to fry on their docket, so they decided to not take it up, which is good for us, but that still means that Dunleavy can pursue traditional avenues through lower courts to try and bring this lawsuit back up to the Supreme Court. So we're not out of the woods yet. But what this means, and the newest trajectory that we're trying to take is permanent protections for Bristol Bay. We've protected Bristol Bay with the 404C Clean Water Act, but now we want legislation. We want legislation that permanently protects this deposit for the world's largest sockeye salmon run. And the forms that we have over here on this table that you may or may not have signed are your way of being able to take action and say, yes, I support permanent protections in Bristol Bay through legislation. Now, what CFPB and the UTBB have been doing is we've been working with a broader coalition of stakeholders of fishing organizations of other tribes in the state of Alaska to work together to build legislation. We don't have anything currently excuse me. We don't have anything that's up right now. But published, yes, exactly. Thank you. But we do have something in the works right now, and we would really appreciate it if you would sign on this letter, so that way, when legislation eventually does come through, congressional delegates have letters from their yes, thank you. Goodness, what would I do without you guys? That support that. So that is what we have for a Bristol Bay update right now. At the end, we can do a little Q&A if you have some more in-depth questions that I can do my best to answer. But with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Melanie Brown with Salmon State, who will be talking about some broader issues in the state of Alaska for salmon hunting.
Thanks, Nels. So I work for Salmon State. It's a Alaska state-based entity that, the focus is basically to work toward ensuring that Alaska remains a thriving place for wild salmon, so that they can keep existing in our state. And there are a lot of challenges, as big and beautiful as our state is. There are many challenges that we're facing. We are always ready to jump into the Pebble fight. All of the people that I work with, we're a pretty small organization. There are only a dozen of us at the most. But we all got our chops and our way of working together because of Pebble. Pebble taught us a lot in terms of how to work together, especially around bringing different entities that you wouldn't think would cooperate together. So we know it's possible. Taught us that. My work with Salmon State started as an organizer. I have the heart of an organizer. But now I'm the outreach director at Salmon State, and I do my best to send out runners out into the world, because you never know what entities or disciplines or walks of life might be able to really help in our work in building groundswell and momentum and energy around the issues that we're working on. So never discount anybody, when you're wanting to build community and momentum around an issue. But some of the things that we're working on, some land-based issue, there was a comment period that just ended, but it doesn't mean that you can't still weigh in or talk to people who have good connections in DC. The Biden administration, and that's true of everything that we're talking about today. Under this administration, it is so important for us to send clear messages to Washington, D.C., because we don't know who's going to be in power next. And so D1 lands are a major thing that we just worked on. They are not governed, but they're overseen by the Bureau of Land Management under the Department of the Interior. And we're so happy that Deb Holland is in the position she's in right now. But D1 lands are lands that were set aside for originally, indigenous people in tandem with the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, which happened in it was ratified in 1972. And these lands the title or the definition is withdrawn, and that means that they can be accessed by anybody, not just indigenous people. But for indigenous people, they're really meaningful because they can be accessed so that the people who live on the land, who still have a relationship with the land, can feed themselves through their traditional and customary activities of hunting, fishing, and gathering. And these lands provide migratory corridors for the great herds that we have in Alaska. Like the bison herds that used to exist in the lower 48, we still have that in Alaska with caribou, with our great caribou herds. But when lands are open to mineral entry and exploration for oil and gas development or mining, It doesn't take much to scatter herds, and people who depend upon these herds to feed their families end up suffering. So we're really concerned. There were executive orders. There were 5 resource management plans that were issued at the very end of the Trump administration that would open these lands to mineral entry, and luckily people were paying attention and they stopped those orders. And that's why this comment period for an environmental impact statement, a draft environmental impact statement, just happened. But like I said, you can still weigh in, you can send a clear message to the people in power in DC, because they are on alert about this. And there are some people that really, they seem to get it, but they need people to demonstrate that they're behind this. We were also, initially we were always focused on the terrestrial environment of salmon. When they go home to spawn and when they're being reared. But despite the fact that people on the Yukon and Kuskokwim rivers have been standing down and not being able to get fish for their families, to feed their families through the winter, we are not seeing improvement in those rivers, in salmon returns of chum and king. And so we recognize that we need to do what we can to help the work that's already being done in the ocean space. So the ocean is like a different kind of watershed than we're talking, mostly we're talking about rivers here today, but the ocean space is of course really important, because any part of the salmon life cycle that's broken will prevent salmon from returning to spawn and complete their life cycles. And there's probably some climate elements that are going on, but we're also very much focused on the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council process, and that basically NOAA is supposed to be taking care of the regulatory processes of the ocean, but it's very clear to us that industry has captured that process. And it's a very staid process. It's amazing the way that the council has buffered itself from any kind of change, because the big factory trawlers, they want to be able to keep taking and not have any kind of curbing of their take, so that salmon can possibly return to the people of the Yukon and Kuskokwim rivers. So our great hope right now is that we can effect change through the national standards guidelines, because MSA is Magnuson-Stevens Act reauthorization. We're not hopeful about that changing or being reauthorized anytime soon. But an advance notice of proposed rulemaking came out last spring that it invited change in national standards 4, 8, and 9 that pertain to, I don't think I have the order right, but it pertains to allocation, communities, and bycatch. And we're waiting for the draft language that's going to be released that will open a comment period. And we're not sure if one of the guidelines is going to be introduced first or all 3. But keep your eyes open for that. I'm sorry I don't have a QR code for you, but if you remember, if all you remember today is salmonstate.org, you can visit our site and go to the Take Action section, and there's a page and petitions associated with all of the things that we're working on that you can weigh in on. And if you weigh in, then and opt in to receive newsletters, you can get updates that way. Another thing that we work on is transboundary rivers that flow from northern BC into southeast Alaska. There are 3 great arteries in southeast Alaska: the Taku, the Stikine, and the Unuk rivers. And you caught a glimpse in the trailer. Brianna Walker, she's the director of the Salmon Beyond Borders campaign. That's Salmon State's Transboundary Rivers campaign. And she she mentioned that basically it's like kind of like the Wild West in the Golden Triangle of northern BC right now, and the way that BC regulates mining entities, it really invites multinational corporations to come in and invest. So that's something to really keep an eye on, because those are very important rivers to the indigenous people on both sides of the borders. And so yeah, definitely follow that. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I'm just gonna look at my notes really quick. Let's see. We also have kind of thrown in on Donlin. We have dear friends on the Kuskokwim River in the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, where the Kuskokwim and the Yukon rivers kind of start raiding together before they meet the ocean. And there are a lot of people that they utterly depend upon the fish and the food that they can get from the land, you know, to feed themselves. And it's a gold project that has mercury credits associated with it, unfortunately. There's a mercury belt that surrounds the gold. So if this ore body is disturbed, everybody downstream is going to be poisoned. And it would also really severely impact the biggest tributary for salmon that's associated with the Kuskokwim River. And then also something that one of my colleagues, Dan Kirkwood, is working on is the Tongass Forest Plan. And the Tongass, as you know, it's like the lungs of the earth. It's been called, and it's also associated with a lot of important salmon habitat. So I hope I didn't go over my time, but yeah, we can talk more during Q&A. Thank you.
Melanie mentioned the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council, and I have some friends that are trying to flip a seat that is run by somebody who has trawling fishing interest. So I can take your email at the end if that's something that you're interested in getting involved with too.
Awesome. Okay, next we have Daniel Rogers, who is here with Trout Unlimited, and he's going to be talking a little bit about his connection to Bristol Bay, as well as introducing a film that we have. It's called School of Fish. It's about 17 minutes long. I will turn off the lights this time for those of you who asked that last time. And then that'll finish up our presentation today, and we'll have a short Q&A at the end. So with that being said, Daniel, I'm putting you on the spot here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
okay, thanks.
Hello, I'm Daniel. So I'm a sport fishing guide on the Mulchatna River here and guide ambassador for Trout Unlimited. Fortunate enough to be able to present at this event. So first of all, I just wanted to show you guys where the Pebble Mine is proposed. So try not to block anyone here. Sorry, so this is the area right here. Yeah, there we go. So Iliamna Lake is directly below it, and then the Nushagak is on top of it, and the tributaries of the Nushagak flow up to it. So this isn't just affecting one river. It flows into Iliamna Lake, it flows west. Some of these rivers flow up and around and down this. So it's going all over, and it poses a huge threat to the New Haven, the Talar Creek, and these are like prolific spawning grounds for the salmon of Bristol Bay down here. So it's not just affecting what flows into the Bristol Bay, you really have to worry about every single fish that is spawning anywhere in this region could be affected by it. So, of course, huge impacts all around. So, anyway, this film that is going to present on it is actually based on Ikiagik right down here. So, the film is kind of viewing this one family and their ties, their cultural values, and just how they live their life around the salmon. So, the indigenous people, they don't just view them as food or value. It's literally a way of life for many of the people in the area. And the film School of Fish follows just how it's not just something that they go to do and they come home. It is literally how they are raised, how they lead their generations. And it also will show the connection that this family has to the Guide Academy. And the Guide Academy is a system that's been put in place by Trout Unlimited and other partners that is for 14 to 24-year-old indigenous natives of the region that is hoping to train them in a 1-week course to become guides in the area and the guide and the lodge industry. And it's been successful now they'll be celebrating their 15th year this year with over 170 graduates. So it's been pretty monumental, and the film will describe that more. But let's take a peek at it, and then we'll answer more questions on it after this.
Feel free to come up here if you cannot see, but it's
I'll go full screen.
Natives in Bristol Bay has always been looked at as expendable people. They looked at us as not third world people, but fourth world people. They were big shots out of Canada with a lot of money and a lot of political power, and they're going to right over the top of us. Iliamna Lake is the most productive salmon lake in the world. And I told him, I said, you're not going to pollute that lake. I'll be up there with my shotgun if I have to stop you. They said I was a radical, and they even got it put into the Acreage Daily News. It didn't bother me any. I know the politics of Pebble Mine. Our local people have relied on subsistence for thousands of years, before the first white man ever came. I've learned from my grandmother, my grandfathers, my father. When I'm dead and gone, they'll be here, I know, putting up fish in the smokehouse and catching salmon.
Every single year, this just unbroken chain from the smallest child to, like, you know, my dad, as salty as they come.
1, 2, 3, 4.
However hard you want to work and however much you want to learn is how much people invest in you. If you're like Tristan and you truly, truly love it, he's going to learn a lot, and he's going to be one of the biggest culture bearers in our family. He's a very good son. He is a very good brother.
There you go. No. Like this. Like this. Alright, see how Ken goes over? Push. I'm happy to see Calvin and Nova enjoying it. It's what's kept our family here for thousands of years. Remember, you gotta cut in between these pins.
Wealth for my family is measured in not how much money we have in the bank, it's the bank. You have to eat it, and if you have too much, you share it with people that don't. Once June starts and everything gets much lighter, Dillingham really wakes up. So fish are running. June is a very busy time. Everyone's getting commercial fishery ready. That's a boat, net, all your gear. Nobody's really resting. It's not a good time to rest. That's what winter's for.
what could be the largest of its kind in North America, is being proposed for a peninsula near Bristol Bay, Alaska. If it goes through, the project would build the biggest dam in the world, smack dab in the middle of the world's largest salmon fishery. And it stirred up a controversy among local residents.
My whole lifestyle is dependent on the salmon, and the Pebble Mine threatens that salmon run. Anything were to go wrong on the tailings pond, on just the mine in itself, it's definitely worrisome to have something like that just take it all away from us. See, that's not supposed to happen.
We've got a prediction of 70 million sockeye coming this year.
Spin it.
For the last, 15 years, I've been teaching my grandsons to take over my operation.
I mean, we were real small coming out here when our parents started letting us come out. And we literally, me and my brother would sit right here on this bed, and as the fish came over the road, we'd count them. King, red, king. Oh, those are red, those are king.
What you gonna do, Dill? You ready to take it, Julie?
They started on the boat when they were 10, so Tristan, who's their captain now, is 23 and has 13 years of experience. It's a lot of pressure on a young captain to keep a boat running, to be in the fish, to feed everyone and keep everyone safe. It's a lot to ask of anyone, it's a lot to ask of a kid, but they do it and they do it really well. Everyone's hanging on every single report. They're watching the tides, they're watching the weather. It's kind of both a quiet and a tense time.
Monday until 9 a.m. Friday, beginning at 9 a.m. Wednesday, June 1st, and ending at 9 a.m. Friday, June 24th.
This is my last year. This is my last year with the boys. They're taking over the whole operation. Yeah. I'm proud of them. As a Yupik person, we are culturally tied to our salmon.
It's the TV.
Bristol Bay folks and river systems have been prostituted over the years by people coming in and taking their wealth and moving on. I'll never back down from people like that. the threat of turning our water, of killing our salmon. We're in a 20-year battle with Pebble Mine. I believe we are going to win, but
you can sit or stand here. We've got recorders here. Go ahead.
Good morning, my name is Tristan Cheney. Our ancestors have been around longer than any of us can remember. And just like our ancestors, I was born and raised to respect and enjoy a subsistence lifestyle.
Most of our food comes from the small streams of Alaska.
I want my family and friends down the line to be able to respect and enjoy a subsistence lifestyle.
You must protect subsistence because all the natives use subsistence hunt for fish. If we couldn't do that, our culture would be dead.
To be 23 and to have 15 years of experience testifying, and that's way too long.
my dad always told me, you know, they used to call us mud people. Our native people were not the leaders in this town. There was a white sector in this town, and a very powerful sector. They wouldn't let their kids play with us because we were mud people, natives. I complained to my dad about the racism I was hearing, and he said, yeah, you're gonna hear that. But you know, son, I want you to learn how to beat them at their own game.
In one generation, missionaries coming, colonization, schools coming, so much language and culture was lost. What if I completely took your connection to your parents and your grandparents away? What if I took your language away? What if I took away these seasonal and daily practices that tell you who you are and what you do on a daily basis, and you're gonna do something completely foreign? That killed your spirit. What do you fill that with? Sickness, alcohol, and that's what it gets replaced with. And it only takes that one generation. Or if your parents are too ill to teach you or to take care of themselves, that's all it takes.
Well, in our culture, every fish we catch, we want to keep. We want to eat that fish. We want to freeze that fish. We want to salt that fish. We want to smoke that fish.
What kind of fish? What kind of fish?
In the sport fish community, there's a thing called catch and release.
Oh, man.
I've never seen a young kid enjoy sport fishing as much as Tristan.
Got him.
Whether he catches a fish or not, he's enjoying it.
Oh my gosh.
You know, fly fishing, he thinks it's silly. He'll watch us do it. And that's about, come chop wood, come pack some more wood, come get this water. You know, come pack this plywood for me. It's like, all right, Grandpa, we're going fishing after though. If you aren't doing things that keep you interested, keep you excited, it's an easy trip just to do drugs or drink.
He finishes commercial fishing, gets the boat put away, he picks up his fly rod, and he's able to continue to fish, guiding over on the east side. He knows our land, he knows our fish and our animals. To be able to be guided by someone whose people are from that land can be so impactful.
10:45, walk down, so now it's time to go get on gear, bring your stuff.
Rod up! Rod up! The normal haul's right here. Keeping the line tight, back and forth. Alright, so start casting. I went to the Guide Academy for 2 years. That's how I got my guiding job. So right now, I'm one of the instructors for the academy. You're just gonna leave it there. You're gonna count to 10 before you touch that line. or 9, or 11. Doesn't matter.
With fly fishing, I didn't really like it at first, but after my first year, I loved it. I stopped using the rod and reel. I started doing more of the fly fishing. I just love it so much. Born and raised here, I got to see a lot, feel a lot of things from this land. I just want to see like our generation stepping up because, you know, with the Pebble Mine going on right now, I got really bummed out about that. Our salmon is our gold. That's the priority for younger generations to experience, to fish on the river. It's hard to say in words when you're actually in the moment. In order to feel what I'm telling you, I need you to experience and be open with the land. Who does this one take?
Most of the guides come from outside, Montana or Oregon or where have you, and I'm sure they're all fantastic fishermen. I'm sure, you know, they appreciate the water, but what those native kids that become guides offer is so much more. And understanding that fish is more than just the fish you caught, but the culmination of generations of people being stewards of that land and water so that you can catch that fish.
And my brother, we set out a net on the Michigan, and since my family or my parents were at home, so me and my brother would pretty much put away the kings ourselves. We got it! Me catching the fish, that's something I like to do. But then coming to this guide academy, I don't know what happened, but seeing a person that I'm guiding, that I'm teaching, and when it all come down to that fish coming to her fly, that's what really got me excited.
For Tristan to be brown, to be native, to be from this region, and to be successful shows and tells kids that they can join this industry and be successful. Wealth is defined by how much you give away, and I'm very grateful that he didn't just keep all of that knowledge to himself, that he is willing to share it with people in all these different industries, and to take that knowledge and his passion and use it to fight for the permanent protection of Bristol Bay.
My family's been in Bristol Bay for thousands of years. In the early years, it was pretty hard living out here. You relied on the resource. You relied on each other. We help one another as best as we can. We're fish people. That's what we're known for, is being fish people. We'll do anything to protect our waters. We'll do anything to protect our lands. I think Pebble has united the people of Bristol Bay like I've never seen them united before.
Well, everybody, are your brains permeated enough yet with salmon habitat conservation efforts across the PNW and Alaska? Yeah, they should be at this point in time. So quickly before we open up the Q&A, is there anyone who has not signed our sign-on letters to protect Bristol Bay? Can I get just like a little raise of hand in here? Okay. Keep your hands raised, and Erica is gonna come and bring you some orbs. Just bring in the general ones. So this now also opens us up for a Q&A. Does anyone have any questions for any of the presenters that you heard today from Salmon State, Columbia Riverkeeper, The Turn, Trout Unlimited, Commercial Fishermen for Bristol Bay?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks for your question. You're referencing kind of...
Miles, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, for sure. The question was, Columbia Riverkeeper helped Nez Perce Tribe screen a film this year called Covenant of the Salmon People. You can stream it on OPP right now. Excellent film. Part of that film was describing initiatives by Nez Perce Tribe and other tribes in the Columbia Basin. There's this agreement that will help them build out their clean energy infrastructure, but they're not waiting. They see the writing on the wall. They want energy independence, and they're working, as we speak, to build out hubs for energy, wind and solar energy on tribal lands in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's part of the broader transition that we need to see.
I have a question for Miles as well. We've had recent success with Klamath River dam removal. Are there parallels between Klamath and Snake that you all can draw on, or is there best practices created by that Klamath action that helps the Snake action as well?
Yeah, question is like parallels between Klamath dam removal and Snake River dam removal. There's a lot of differences both in the watershed and the regulatory environment. The Snake dams are not regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission because they're owned by the feds. I would say the carryover between those two things is tribal leadership on dam removal. When the Klamath turned, it was because the Yurok and Karuk and other tribes took the lead and brought the environmental groups along with them. I think we're starting to see that now with the Snake River, and that's a really encouraging sign. More broadly, I think what the Klamath means for the Snake is we can do big, difficult things. I think it's just a big shot of confidence of, look, it took a long time, it was hard, but we worked through it, we came to an agreement, and yeah, we can get rid of these old dams that are no longer serving the best interests of our people and our waters.
There's somebody over there.
That was one of my questions. I have a second question. It's a general question. Is there any movement or interest or the role of the rights of watershed initiatives or the rights of nature initiatives that are in some countries, and even I'm from Eugene, there's a local Wayne County rights of the watershed. Is that
do you mean like personhood of the water body?
Yeah, like Ecuador has the rights of nature in its constitution. There are other constitutional rights to change the constitution. So I don't want to keep...
I've never heard of anything like that being implemented in the United States. I think I have an idea of what you're talking about, and I think it's pretty revolutionary kind of thinking. The kind of laws that would hopefully help move people's minds in the right direction, and that would lead to better things, but I don't know of anything like that in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it a little bit in some of the tribes in western Washington starting to adopt these into their tribal constitutions and try to protect, the Salish Sea and other water bodies. I'm not aware of major initiatives in like state or local or federal United States politics to do that.
So back to the Columbia, aside from the dams on the Columbia and the Snake, what about the pollutants, the PCBs, and are there any efforts underway to address some of those issues and their impacts on the fish population?
Yeah, I think, you know, there are big cleanup activities underway at places like Bradford Island, which is kind of Bonneville Dam, where the Army Corps wound up dumping a bunch of PCB-laden stuff. You know, there's legacy pollutants entering the river in a lot of places. You know, you know, the Willamette through the city of Portland is going through the Superfund projects right now, and hopefully getting to, you know, some cleanup. Again, just a really pernicious and difficult to deal with problem. But you know, I think there's, especially EPA has put a lot of focus on that over the last several years. So you know, there's more awareness, there's more money, but you know, it's real tough to get stuff out of the river once it's in there. And I think that's probably a big lesson for Bristol Bay. Is the best way to protect your watershed is to not screw it up in the first place.
If I could add just a little bit to that, so Coach Scrivener, because I work, you know, on, well, let's just say that, as Miles said, EPA Region 10 has a grant program now. It's called the Columbia River Basin Restoration Act. It was championed by Senator Merkley, and so it is a grant program that is to fund efforts to do just what you're talking about, to both look at trying, you know, it's more like on the preventative side, you know, but a lot of monitoring in there, and it's for me that is an example of actually having the stamina to work with policy, because once you get policy change like this, it can be a game changer for 30 to 50 years. And when you also have an appropriator like Senator Merkley, he was able, with the first infrastructure bill, put $80 million in it. It can be a game changer to get ahead of the game. But it's another example, if you have the stamina to work with policy, stay with it, and find those champions.
This is getting away from the removal of the snake river dams, but I learned recently that there are these transboundary issues in the upper Columbia with trying to increase passage of salmonids into beyond Grand Coulee. Could you speak to where that is, and is that really pie in the sky right now?
It's become a lot less pie in the sky. Actually, part of the agreement that I talked about, kind of this big pause in litigation, is a commitment by the federal government to fund the Upper Columbia Basin tribes and Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife's work to reconnect salmon above Grand Coulee and Chief Joseph dams. There's been a lot of study done. There's been some experimental releases which have actually resulted in, you know, fish born in the gravel above Grand Coulee, making it all the way downstream past, oh God, however many it is, like 13 dams to the ocean, and then all the way back upstream to the face of Chief Joseph's Dam, which is as high as fish can go. At least one fish has made it there. You know, and to me, you know, one fish has made it back. You know, and part of this agreement is to fund the next step in, you know, designing ways to reestablish fish populations above Grand Coulee for tribes and for people who have been 100 years without fish in some places. You know, still huge technological challenges to, you know, how are we going to get enough fish over those dams? How are we going to get enough survival, you know, back up and down to, you know, to really reestablish that? But, you know, that has taken a step forward.
I think, okay, you're gonna be the last one, then we're gonna get some giveaway items out, and then if there's any more questions, feel free to stay, but go for it.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. It's been really informative. The question about dealing with the greater oceans, how is the international agreements in terms of watching how much fish they catch? Is it just the Wild West out there, or?
Yeah, the Pacific Salmon Treaty is meant to monitor, so that fish can pass through, like American river mouth openings and on up into Canada. So there is a counting process there. When it comes to international ocean waters, the Magnuson-Stevens Act was intended to help, govern those waters better. But there's so much that is just so hard to monitor because those waters are so vast, and most people, they try to get away with what they can out there, like bandits. But I have a quick question. Is Kate Wood in the room? Does anybody know who Kate Wood is? Because she was asking about the stickers that I put on the table, and I was hoping to connect with her so we wouldn't have to mail some to her. But okay.
She's not in the room.
Okay.
I got stickers for her.
Great, thank you. Thanks. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Okay, before we have some drawings, does anyone have a form that they would like to turn in to me before we start this? Okay. Speak now, or turn in your forms, or you can still turn them in after, but you won't get a cool prize for doing that. All right, so my lovely presenters up here are going to draw from this pile, and you need to be present to win. So this one's for a no pebble flag. Who do we have, Miss Erica?
Paul Parker.
Oh my God.
Mark, would you draw the next one for another no pebble flag?
Draw mine, Mark.
For a no pebble flag is Brian Wolcott. Brian, right there.
Oh my God! Okay, this is all around Erica.
Not doing that again.
This one is for a cool bronze belt buckle. What does it say on it?
Honor the tribes.
Melanie, would you please?
Definitely throwing this one.
What do we got? We have John Tullis. Are you with him?
Oh, listen here, I know him.
There he is. All right. All right, for a Columbia Riverkeeper hat. Daniel. Or actually, sorry, Miles, you have to another one. What do we got?
Molly McGuire.
Molly, are you with us?
Thank you.
Awesome. And then we have three more. We have an Eva's Wild sweatshirt donated by Mark Titus. So,
Yay.
sorry.
Wait, what are we doing? The hat or the sweatshirt right now?
We're doing the sweatshirt. We're doing the sweatshirt.
Size large, so, oh my. Sorry, Kate. It's Kate Fuka?
Oh,
Yes.
Here we go.
Very cool.
Someone on this side needs to be it.
I know. I'll reshuffle. Sorry, guys. I would have brought tickets, but I just. All right. What do we got? Or that's the whole bag.
Oh.
That's the grand prize.
Oh,
We still have it. That's second place prize. So we have a hat first. Okay. Hat
Beautiful
first.
blue
We're gonna go back to
hat.
Miles because it's Columbia
With an
Riverkeeper hat.
accentuating red patch. Mesh sprinkle.
Skylar Wiseman.
Skylar. Okay, someone on that side of the room won. Okay, you guys. All right, our second place prize here, because apparently it's a competition now, is a $100 gift card from Eva's Wild. Do you want to talk about that really quick?
Sure. So, Ava's Wild is a company I founded to answer the question after every Q&A of all the films, what can I do to help? We sell wild Bristol Bay sockeye salmon to restaurants all around the country and ship to people's doors direct to their doors. That's a $100 gift certificate for salmon shipped to your door or any of the merch, like the sweatshirt. So, go. And we donate 10% of profits. Joyce A. Hunt. We donate 10% of profits to the Bristol Bay Foundation, which gives 4-year college scholarships and trade school scholarships to Bristol Bay's Indigenous young people.
All right, and I've been teasing Daniel over here, but Trout Unlimited has graciously donated a bag, a tumbler. They were a co-sponsor of this event here and sent Daniel out here to show School of Fish to us. So he will be drawing the final grand prize here. Comes with some Bristol Bay Forever swag and no Pebble swag. So here we go.
2 handles, guys. Tote.
Oh, nice.
And shoulder.
Jan Mitchell.
So, with that being said, that does conclude our progress and challenges towards Healthy Watersheds presentation today. If you have any other questions, you can talk to any one of us up here, but we really appreciate your time today. And it's people like you who come here and want to learn about these initiatives and the challenges and progress that we make that really do make a difference. So thank you so much for your time today.
It isn't very far to Astoria's bar, but a very long journey it can be. It can start at the mouth of a mighty blue river and end at the bottom of the sea. And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.